Hi, everyone. This is Pat Hahn from the Westminster branch of the Carroll County Public Library. I'm sorry I have no visual, but just kind of that'll lend itself to my disembodied voice for the time of year we're talking about. I want to thank Rob Gutro, our presenter, for being here today. Rob is a medium, a paranormal investigator, and a scientist. He's author of Pets in the Afterlife, How They Communicate from the Other Side, and more pets and Pets in the Afterlife 2, stories of signs from pets that passed. He's going to discuss how to cope with grief after losing a beloved pet. He will identify the signs that the animals give us and the signs behind why living pets can sense entities. So with no further ado, here is Rob Gutro.
Thank you, Pat, and thank you to the library for hosting me today. As Pat mentioned, I'm a medium, and what a medium is really is just someone who can tune into the energies of people or pets who passed away. And I've had that ability since I was about 13 years old, and ignored it until 2005 when a puppy of mine, a Weimaraner named Buzz, was tragically killed by a car when his leash opened. This is Buzz behind me. Um, so I'm here today to explain to you how our pets communicate from the other side and what kind of signs that they will send us and what to look for. And this, my hope is, by you being able to see these signs, you'll get some comfort, knowing that they're still very much around and they're trying to communicate with you. And the same works for people. It works much the same way. So whatever I tell you about pets, it could be dogs, cats, horses, any domesticated pet has the ability to communicate from the other side. Um, just a little bit more about my background. In addition to the paranormal stuff, during the daytime, I'm actually a scientist. I'm a meteorologist. So science is a very important part of my books. I've written 7 so far, about to publish Pets in the Afterlife 3 in January, which is strictly about signs from dogs, and then there'll be a Pets in the Afterlife 4 about cats. Um, but any domesticated animal has the ability to communicate with us from the other side. And the reason is because they are around us. They are around people, so they pick up on words, they pick up on emotions, they pick up on habits, they develop routine. All of these things that we do, they are observing. So they have the ability to communicate because they know how they can get through to us. Um, so that said, science is the foundation of the paranormal, in my opinion. And in my books, Pets in the Afterlife 1 and 2 and 3, I've examined the ways that pets can communicate from the other side. How is that possible? Because we know people can, certainly, because we relate to them. So, according to Dr. Stanley Coren, who's written a couple of books called How Dogs Think and the Intelligence of Dogs, dogs learn on a lot of different levels, and we use dogs as a baseline, but the same applies to any domesticated animal. Cats, um, horses, rabbits, and even birds. All of them can communicate in different ways, but they always communicate usually in ways that they would have in the physical life. They can do more than that, though, with the help of a human spirit on the other side, and I'll address those things. So animals learn on a lot of different levels. They learn on an instinctual level. Um, they just like a mother protects its young from danger. They have emotional learning. So their emotions develop over time as they mature. They have language learning. They certainly learn words. We teach them words when we take them to school, obedience school or agility. Agility also requires intelligence. Um, and there's quite a number of other ways that they learn. I always say that the only difference between a pet and a human child is that you take them both to school. You are happy when they learn. You're happy when they interact socially. Um, they love you unconditionally, And the only difference between a pet and a human child is that the pet doesn't marry someone you don't like and move away. So that's the way I think of it. This particular lecture today is actually kind of raw for me because just 2 days ago, myself and my husband had to say goodbye to our 15-year-old Weimaraner, Dolly. We had to make that choice. And it's, as you know, you're tuned into this because you likely lost a pet. It is a gut-wrenching thing, and it takes a long time to get over it. It doesn't mean that you won't heal. You'll never forget them. But the love is always going to be there. And they show that to us as they continue to send us signs. So what happens after our pets die? Now, this past Thursday, we had a vet come to our backyard, and Dolly passed quietly in the sunshine on a blanket, surrounded by her two brothers, Dachshund and a Dachshund Chihuahua mix, and me and my husband. And it was very peaceful. I encourage you that if you have to let your pet go, always be there with them, because you are the one that they are looking for. If you find that you don't have the courage to do that, try and find it. If you let a pet pass and you weren't there, don't feel guilty about it, because they understand. They read your emotions before they passed. But but please know that it's much more helpful to the pet for you to be there, because they all rely on scent. They all rely on smell, less than vision. So they know that if you're in there. If you can't be in there when they pass, bring at least put the scent of a piece of clothing with them, something. So anyway, what happens after you pass? Well, I've come to find out that the energies that are within us, couple with our memories, our personality, and our knowledge, and that becomes what I call a soul. Every living thing has a soul. And by the way, if you've heard people say that animals don't have souls, they're absolutely foolish. Every living thing has a soul. Animals were here long before people ever were, and they lived and died nice long lives. As a matter of fact, I think that animals can be much more intelligent than people. They don't start wars and so forth. So that soul makes a choice after we pass. Now, animals, 99% of animals pass, they cross over into the light. That's what I call the spirit. So mostly your pets are in spirit. The other choice that you can make, and usually people make it, is to stay earthbound in the fixed location of their choosing, and that's what I call a ghost. So it's all about energy, and we make a choice after we die. We either cross over and join the energies of the universe, or heaven, or Valhalla, whatever you want to call the other side, or we stay earthbound, which is the wrong thing to do, at a fixed location of our choosing. That's why when you go into prisons, they may be haunted with prisoners who died there. And the reason they stay behind is a reason that a number of people stay behind, because they fear what's on the other side. They fear what's in the light, and you should never fear what's in the light. So this is to the people that are listening, not to the pets, because the pets know that if they cross over, it's nothing but love and peace and health and so forth. So I do find that a lot of people who are very devout in their religions are afraid to cross over. So don't be one of those. No matter what you did in this life, you can cross over. And all of our relatives in spirit are waiting for our pets when they cross over. So just know that they're not alone on the other side. And your pets will also be waiting for you on the other side. But let me backtrack a minute to energy. So once you choose to be a ghost or a spirit, they have to get enough strength to communicate with us. And how they do that is by drawing energy. So the energies they use are physical energies like heat, light, water, and electricity. Those are things that can power them. But the difference is ghosts use negative emotional energy. What do I mean by that? I mean, fear, anxiety, depression, and anger are things. If you're feeling those things, you're fueling a ghost to communicate with you. So if you go into a haunted house and you're feeling anxious, um, you're basically plugging that ghost in and allowing them to communicate with you by either pushing something or moving something or speaking or doing something. A spirit requires faith, hope, and love. And that's the energies that they draw on to communicate with us. So, so that said, now you know the difference between a ghost and a spirit. Most of your pets are in spirit, and 99% of them cross over. And 99% of them cross over immediately. Um, and I will give you an example that happened just this week with my dog Dolly. Now, as a medium, by the way, and a very emotional guy, I tend to get very choked up when I'm giving this lecture because I now have 4 dogs in spirit and 2 living dogs. So just to let you know, this is a picture of Dolly. She was my girl. She knew intuitively everything I was thinking. Her brother Franklin, this is Franklin. Sorry about the reflection. Franklin was a dachshund. Franklin passed in May. So we've lost 2 of our children in 5 months. And it's devastating. So I understand what you're feeling right now. You raise them as children. My husband and I won't have any children, just canine children. But at 16 years, it's like losing the life of a teenager that you've raised. And it's traumatic. One thing you need to know, though, when your pet passes, is that they don't want you to be miserable over their loss. They want us to focus on the good things that we shared with them during their life, no matter how long or how short their life was. Buzz only lived 7 months, and I try to focus on him, on the short time I had with him. Dolly lived to be 15 years. Franklin lived to be 16. They had a lot of ailments. We have a medical file about 5 inches thick on Dolly, but she was a fighter. And we had a lot of good times just to remember staying. And that's what they want you to remember. They also want you to know that when you make that choice for them, they understand. They are reading your energy, your emotional energy, when you're making that choice. So they can sense anxiety, they can sense fear, they can sense nervousness. And what they always tell me from the other side is how much they are thankful that they have loving parents that understood that they should not suffer for a long period of time. Now, so I had to make that choice with Dolly. A disc in her spine ruptured, and within 24 hours, she lost the total ability to walk on her back legs. It was horrifying to me, and I saw her in such discomfort, and we immediately had to make that choice. Totally unexpected. But that's what you have to do, and that's what love is all about, and that's why our pets love us unconditionally, and we have to love them unconditionally too. Sure, they behave like bad children sometimes. We scold them sometimes, but it's all about training, just like we do with human kids. So now that we've discussed how pets learn, and that they don't want you to feel guilty for making that final decision, they actually tell me that they are always thanking you. Usually when I get a message from a pet on the other side, after you've helped them cross, they will show me their paws outstretched, which means thank you. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad, for having the strength and the courage to help me pass out of this misery. So there's that. So pets also have the same emotions that people do. Now, in my Pets in the Afterlife 1 book, I focus more on some of the scientific studies in the beginning, because it's important to me as a scientist that you know that they have the intelligence of a 3 to 5-year-old child, and that's been proven. Um, there's even a border collie that's learned up to 1,000 words and can differentiate between the colors yellow, blue, and any other color. So dogs can see yellow and blue, by the way. They just can't see any other color. Everything else is in shades of gray. And I've proven that in my own home because our dachshund Tyler, who's 10, um, only plays with a yellow Woodstock toy, Woodstock from Snoopy. That's the only toy he plays with. So we have like 10 of them. but try that out at home if you have any dogs or cats at home. Try that out with a yellow toy, because they will do that. So one of the questions that people have asked me, is do animals have souls? And that's really a hot button question for me, because of course they have souls. I mentioned that earlier. One scientist, or neuroscientist at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, also gets sick and tired of hearing that stupid question. And I say stupid because it's very emotional for me. So he was tired of it. So what he did is he set up an experiment in his lab in Atlanta with his colleagues, and he took any colleagues who had dogs, and they trained their colleagues' dogs and his dog to sit still for an MRI. If you've had an MRI, you know that it can be a little unnerving and claustrophobic, and it takes about 20 to 25 minutes of loud humming. So he trained them to sit still. And what he did was he went up to his dog and they scanned the dog's brain. They had strangers go up to his dog and they scanned the dog's brain. And they did that with all of the dogs of the colleagues. They sent strangers and then they sent the parent and they scanned the dog's brain. What they found was that the caudate section of the brain, the section in the human brain that registers emotions of love, lit up every time when the pet parent approached the dog, but it did not light up when the strangers approached the dog. So that tells you right there that pets have the same exact emotions that humans do. Now, if you have a dog or a cat, you know they do, but the rest of the world may not. So anyway, so there's the science behind it all. That's how they're able to communicate. One of the easiest ways that pets can communicate is by dreams. And the reason for that is that when we're awake, our logical minds try to explain things away. You have probably seen many signs from your pets and just ignored them or tried to explain them as a coincidence. Well, I'll tell you right now that when it comes to spirit, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Spirits influence things to happen. Just like if you're driving to work one day and you decide you're going to take a turn and go down the street a different way. When you get to work, you find out that there was a major accident the normal way that you go. And you think to yourself, wow, I was lucky. Why did I do that? Well, the reason is that you had the spirit of a loved one sitting in your car with you who was influencing you to go that other way. That's how it works. No such thing as a coincidence. So that said, because we use our logical minds to dispel any signs, we miss them. So dreams are the easiest ways for pets to communicate. I wish I could see everybody that's watching this, because I would love to get a show of hands, like how many people have dreamt of their dogs. Also, when you're grieving, right after a pet passes, grief can block signs from your pets, your cats or your dogs or your horses. So don't get discouraged. Don't think that they're not reaching out to you, because they certainly are. I had a very deep link with Dolly, who passed, and my grief was so intense. I didn't think that she'd be able to get through to me. But that first night after she passed, I had a dream of her. Dolly was 15, almost 16 years old. She would have been 16 next month, which is unbelievable for a Weimaraner. And in the last year and a half of her life, she had to wear a cloth diaper, and I would have to put a liner in the diaper because she was incontinent with both 1 and 2. Um, in the last 3 months, she couldn't even go by herself. So, I can tell you this because you're obviously pet parents who are listening, but when they have trouble doing that, it's because the nerves in their backside are really deteriorating, and they don't have any feeling anymore. So if you just, rub them back there, you're enable them to have a movement. And I had to do that every single time I took Belly out, and I didn't mind that. That's what a pet parent does. So in the dream I had, I saw her standing in the grass in the backyard, and I was coming over to her to help her with her business. And I heard her say, "Dad, you don't need to help me anymore. I'm good. I'm healthy now." So it was a great message to get from her. I really needed to hear that. Again, I told you I'm going to get emotional. These are my children. But dreams are the easiest way. So hopefully you've had a dream of your pet. If you haven't, if you want to hear from your pet in your dreams, before you go to bed at night, ask them to come in your dreams. And usually over the course of a couple weeks, they do. So I'm gonna start talking about some of the other ways since we're already 25 minutes in. It's important to get the basics out though, because you need to know that pets have the ability to do this. So also you need to know too that if you lost a pet as a child, that pet can still very much come to you, because time is irrelevant on the other side. Time is only relative to where you are. On Earth, 1 year is 365 days. On other planets, sometimes 1 year could be 30 days, or it can be years. Time is relevant to wherever you are. But on the other side, in spirit, it doesn't matter. So one of the things that that pets will do is they will use physical signs. So you may be lying in bed and you may feel your pet laying against your legs. That's happened a lot. Many people have reported that to me. It's happened to me too. I was on a paranormal investigation in one house, and we were investigating a ghost, and a cat walked by me and brushed my leg. And I said to the homeowner, "I didn't know you had a cat in here," because I'm allergic to cats, but I didn't have a reaction. And she said, "No, we don't have a cat in here, but we've seen a ghost cat walk around." So there was a cat that decided to stay behind, and he decided to brush my leg. So you may feel that. If your dog used to jump up on you and scratch, you may feel that too. You may feel a light scratching. So anything in the physical. By the way, if there's questions, by the way, the folks that are managing can feel free to just jump in and ask me questions as we go along, because usually whenever I give these lectures, somebody listening, there's a message for you in everything or anything that I say, and because every time I do this lecture, I do it differently. It's all off the top of my head. And spirits usually influence me to talk about certain things because somebody that is listening needs to hear them. So, so we talked about the physical, but they also make noises. So you may have heard a bark, or a meow, or a whinny, or even a chirp after your dog, cat, horse, or bird has passed away. And it often sounds like it's coming from another room. And the reason it does is because it takes a lot of energy for spirits to make noises. It's usually easier for them to touch you. So know that even if you don't hear anything, it doesn't mean that they're not there. It just takes a lot of energy, and that means a lot of physical energy or a lot of emotional energy or a combination of both. And often there's not that much energy around to give them that strength. I did hear a bark. I actually heard my dad call my name one year. My dad passed in 2008, and one year in October, around the time of my birthday, I was laying in bed, and our 3 dogs were on my bed, and my husband had gone to work, and I heard my dad in the kitchen call my name, and all 3 dogs turned their heads to the kitchen, so they all heard it too. So that's pretty amazing, because it takes an awful lot of energy for a spirit to do that. Another way that pets will communicate from the other side and let you know that they're around is that they will lead you to another pet that looks just like them. And again, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Or they'll even come to somebody else, and knowing that that other person can give you the message. So they may, if your grief is so intense, they may not be able to come to you, but they'll go to somebody else. And this just happened yesterday to me with Dolly. My good friend Jane in Massachusetts, who lives about 400 miles away, sent a text to me yesterday, just before she went on her walk at, I think it was like 4 o'clock. And she asked me if I've seen any signs from Dolly. And I told her about my dream. And she said, well, keep me posted. And I said, okay. So within the hour, on her walk, 400 miles away, doesn't matter where you are, she said a Weimaraner came running out of the woods. A Weimaraner that resembled Dolly, because Dolly was a Weimaraner. She said she had never seen that Weimaraner before, and that Weimaraner came up to her. And she knew that it was a sign from Dolly. And she knew that she was going to text me immediately and tell me that Dolly wanted her to know that she's okay, and in turn let me know that she's okay. That's how it works. Buzz did the same thing in 2005 with my friend Lisa in Maine. She was jogging. After Buzz passed, she was jogging and not thinking about anything. And a Weimaraner in Maine ran out of the woods, stopped in front of her, caused her to stop, and she looked at the tag, and the dog's name on the tag was Buzzy. My dog's name was Buzz. And the owner's name was Rob G, same as mine. Again, no such thing as a coincidence. And spirits can come to others to convey messages. In fact, one woman wrote me and she said that she had been anxious to get messages from her cat who passed. She's so attached to her cat. And she said that she was also angry that her cat hadn't come through to her. And I wrote her back and I said, why are you angry? And she said, I'm angry because my cat came through to my husband and I fought with him about this. She said, I want my cat to come to me. So I said, well, your cat can't come to you because your grief is blocking. So I know her cat felt a little bad that, you know, he caused mom and dad to have some marital difficulties, but again, that's the way it works. They will come to the people that they can come through to. So we've talked about getting physical. We've talked about barks and meows. We've talked about doppelgangers, if you will, or lookalikes. I'm going to talk about return appearances in just a second, but I'm going to take a break to let you know that there is a scientific reason why when you feel the presence of a spirit or a ghost, that there's a coldness. If you've watched paranormal programs on television, you'll hear people talking about cold spots. Now, I'm part of the Inspired Ghost Tracking group. This book here is called Case Files of Inspired Ghost Tracking. I just published this one. It's about all the cases that our team goes into private houses and investigates and so forth. And by the way, if you're calling a paranormal investigator to come into your house, make sure your house is kind of cleaned up because we've gone in some that weren't. Just make sure the kitchen is clean. But seriously, you don't know what you're going to get. So on paranormal investigations, we bring a digital thermometer. And the reason we do that is because cold spots are, in fact, indicative of spirit. And this is how I have come to understand why. Because, again, I'm a scientist. I've never heard anybody else give this explanation, but it makes total sense to me. So because ghosts and spirits are energy, they need energy to get strong enough to communicate. So whenever a ghost or a spirit wants to get strong enough to communicate, what they do is they take the motion of molecules of air and they take that energy away and they slow down the movement of molecules of air. So fast-moving molecules of air are warm air, slow-moving molecules of air are cold air. That's what happens. So in the summertime, you've got molecules of air ping-ponging all over the place. In the wintertime, they slow down. So what happens is when they take that energy away, they create kind of a cold spot. So if you feel a cold spot against you, know that someone in spirit is likely trying to get your attention. So there you go. There's the scientific explanation. I hope that makes sense. So let me look at a couple of other things here. Return appearances. Once in a great while, you may catch a sight of your pet after they had passed. After Buzz passed, I had adopted Dolly, my other Weimaraner, and I was in the kitchen one night. It was 9:30 at night. I had a townhouse, a small townhouse at that time, and it was a galley kitchen, and there was only one hallway that went into the living room. So there was only two ways to get in the living room. The kitchen door to the living room was closed. I saw a Weimaraner come up to the kitchen and turn around and go back into the living room. So I thought it was Dolly. Well, I stopped what I was doing and I followed and I was calling after it. I said, Dolly, stop. Dolly, where are you going? I went in the living room and turned on the light and there was nothing there. I suddenly realized that must have been Buzz. So I ran upstairs to the bedroom and there curled up on my bed was Dolly, fast asleep. So I had seen Buzz visibly, and that's rare. It's very rare, but sometimes it can happen. But you can't dismiss it. Most often, because spirits move at a higher vibration, we can only see them as shadows. So you may have seen a shadow out of the corner of your eye. I know our dog Sprite likes to appear as a shadow. He was a dachshund who passed at 16 and a half. He likes to appear at the front door as a shadow and then just disappear really quickly. So that said, we can see our pets as shadows. Cats are really fast, by the way, in spirit. So you may see them for just a split second and then they're gone. Dogs are a little slower. So that brings me to how our living pets can see ghosts and spirits. So if you have a pet that passed and you have another pet that's still with you, watch that pet, because I have found out that dogs and cats can see and hear ghosts and spirits. So spirits, by the way, of our loved ones, they don't stay with us 24/7. It's not like they were in the physical. They just only come when they have a message for us, or they come when they want us to know that they're there. They don't belong here. So I've heard from people who say, I just want my dog or cat around all the time. I'm sorry, that's not how it works. They are energy. They're spirit. They don't belong here anymore. They're going to be waiting for us on the other side, but they will come back. So anyway, dogs and cats can see and hear spirits of our loved ones, or even our other pets. The reason for that is that they have a different physiology in their eyes. They have a different physiology of cones and rods in their eyes. Now, cones and rods in our eyes allow us to see for faster movement and other things. You know, I'm not an ophthalmologist or an optometrist, so I can only explain it generally. So they can see faster movement. Spirits move at faster vibration. Therefore, dogs and cats can see them. We can't see them head on at all, usually. So if you're walking your dog, you may notice that your dog starts pulling because they see something like 200 feet ahead. You don't see it. Something moving fast ahead. We don't see it. It's not until a dog can get 75 feet from the object, by the way, that they can finally see clearly. And then we can see more clearly too. So if they're staring at a corner and there's nothing there, or they're staring at the place where your other dog or cat used to sit, there is a really good chance that your other dog or cat is visiting in spirit. So know that. The other thing too is that they have a different physiology of hearing. They have a different level of hearing. So they can hear at different frequencies that we can hear. If you think of a dog whistle, we can't hear a dog whistle, but dogs can. As a paranormal investigator, we use digital recorders, and digital recorders will pick up different frequencies. Oftentimes, there will be a whole bunch of paranormal investigators in a room, and we'll ask questions, and we won't hear anything. And then when we play back the digital recorder, we'll hear, "Help me," or "Why are you here?" or something. Dogs can hear that because spirits speak at a different frequency. So again, if you find them staring at something and there's nothing there, 10 to 1, you have a spirit visitor. They can also, so I took our dog Dolly on a paranormal investigation, and I think that's in my Pets in the Afterlife 1 book. She was able to figure out that the spirit of the family's late dog was there visiting because she mimicked the dog's behavior every time the dog would come in the house. And she went to a certain room in the house, and the parents were blown away by seeing that. As soon as I said, "Dolly, go, show me," that's what she did. So she followed that dog in spirit, up that dog's favorite route through the house. And you can read about that in Pets in the Afterlife 1. But that to me is pretty amazing. So pets absolutely can see spirits, and the time to be really vigilant for messages from your pet and your people are birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. And now, why is that? It's because our energy level, our emotional energy changes on birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays. And our pets can read our emotions. You know, they know when we're happy, when we're sad, when we're angry. They go put their tail between their legs and go run in the other room. They look guilty if they tore a package open at Christmas time. We've had many of those. So they can read our emotions. Where was I going with that? Sorry, I get distracted. But birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are really important times. So that's right. Our energy is different. So that's why around those times, pets will visit. And it could be an anniversary of adoption. Could be an anniversary of a passing. It could be an anniversary of something else, some other special day. And I will share this with you. In 2008, my dog Sprite passed away. Now Sprite was a dachshund. It's always helpful to have a face with a name. This is Sprite. Sprite came to us from an animal rescue. My husband and I have worked with rescues for over 10 years, dachshund and Weimaraner rescues, because those are the dogs that we have. So Sprite came to us at almost 14 years old, and he had to have 22 teeth pulled. His teeth were all rotted. He never got medical care where he was with. He was actually he belonged to a retired couple who had no money to bring him to the vet. So when they passed, the family didn't want Sprite, so he came into a rescue, and we took him in. He had a bad heart murmur. He had an infection in his ears. He had rotted teeth. He was in really bad shape. And he had kidney failure. And he could not be adopted because he had all of those issues. So we gladly adopted him. Sprite wound up living to be 16 and a half. He lived 2.5 more years after he had his 22 teeth removed. But Sprite loved the backyard. Couldn't walk very much. He was kind of overweight when he came to us, and so we used to amble around the backyard. That's the way he walked. So when Sprite passed away, that week, I think it was that next day, we let our dogs out. Now at that time we had 2 dachshunds and a Weimaraner. And if you have a dachshund, you know that dachshunds will chase anything. They'll chase butterflies and squirrels and rabbits and dragonflies. Doesn't matter what it is, they'll chase it. So we came out in the back. It was July 8th, and all summer long, we had never seen one butterfly. This time, we saw a butterfly. And this butterfly was yellow and black, and it flitted around on the ground for 20 minutes. I timed it, 20 minutes, around our 3 dogs. That's extremely unusual, number one, that a butterfly will linger that long. Number 2, it's unheard of that a dachshund would not chase the butterfly. And number 3, it followed the same path that Sprite followed. In fact, I took a picture of the butterfly with my cell phone, and it's in Pets in the Afterlife 1. This is how close I got with my cell phone. And again, July 8th, first time we saw a butterfly. Totally unusual, considering we have 4 apparently non-functioning butterfly bushes in our backyard. But so that became Sprite's call sign, if you will. That was 2008. Sprite gives us signs every now and then whenever we're thinking of him. And it has to be whenever you're thinking of them, or on a birthday, anniversary, or holiday. I think it was 2013, I was driving to work, and I was not cognizant of what day it was. Suddenly, in front of my windshield came a yellow and black butterfly. And I heard Sprite say, "Dad, remember what day it is?" And I thought, oh my gosh, it was the anniversary of his passing. It was 5 years ago that he had passed. So Sprite wanted to let me know that he was still very much around. Now, somebody had said to me at one of, I think it was online, somebody criticized me and said, well, I guess every time you see a butterfly, that's a sign. And no, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. How it works is that spirit on the other side can influence birds, butterflies, dragonflies, rabbits, squirrels, anything in nature to behave oddly. They have to behave oddly. Or it has to be around a birthday, anniversary, or holiday. So know that. I was invited to a private session in a home with my friend Ruth Larkin, who is the Beantown medium. Now, she does readings, by the way. If you want readings, contact beantownmedium.com, because she does phenomenal readings. I don't do readings for a living. I may start charging for readings at the beginning of the year, but that's another story. And I've done a lot of pet readings. I've done thousands of pet readings around the world. So I went to this one particular house for these 4 sets of parents. They each had a teenage son that were driving in a car on the eastern shore of Maryland, and they were killed in an accident. So Ruthie was invited there to see if she could channel them. I was just an observer. While I was standing there, one of the boys came to me, and he kept showing me that a robin he was sending to his dad would go up to his dad's window every day and stare at his dad. And he said, "Tell my dad that's me." So after Ruthie wrapped up the session, I said, I have a message for one of the dads, and hopefully you'll understand who this is, and I told him what happened, and one of the dads stood up and he said, that's exactly what happened over the course of the last week. He said he's never seen anything like it, that a robin came up to his window every day for a week, and he knew that it was from his son. Very emotional. But, you know, spirit, whether it's pets or people, they will find a way to communicate with us in any way. Some of them will send us flowers. Another person I heard from said their German Shepherd had passed, and they decided they were going to bury his ashes at a certain place, and there's never been flowers there before, ever, in the backyard. So they didn't plant any, so they buried the ashes, and the very next year, there were flowers there for the first time. And she knew that that was a sign from her German Shepherd. They also use musical signs. So if you feel an urge to turn on the radio at some point in time, and suddenly you hear a song that reminds you of your loved one, whether it's a person or a pet, doesn't matter, know that they influenced you to turn on the radio at that particular time. You may see somebody mention treats that they once had, or you may actually hear their name. You in passing, if somebody's saying something, you may hear their name mentioned, and they're not talking about your pet, but you hear the same name, or you see a name that is very close to your pet's name. That's a sign. That's absolutely a sign. I've always felt that when my mom and dad have both passed, and my mother and father never went to Europe. So about 2 years ago, we took a Viking cruise on the Rhine River. Never done it before, but I recommend it. I sensed that my mother and father were with us, and I just told my husband, I said, you know, they're definitely with us because I can feel them. I can feel them around here enjoying this through through us. At the very last day of the trip, we get on a bus to go from the river dock into a small town in Germany, and I was talking about my mother. We drove by a supermarket, and there was the name of the supermarket in a huge sign was Norma. That was my mother's name. It's not a coincidence. This is what I'm saying about how messages and signs come. There's no such thing as a coincidence when it comes to spirit. So there's so many more things I could share with you about different stories. I think I have, Pat, do I have, what, 5 minutes left? Or Amber, do I have about 5
You
minutes?
actually have some questions too.
Okay, well, why don't we just do the questions, because there's so
Okay.
much.
Let's see here. Andrea has asked, in addition to asking pets to come to you in your dreams, what are some other ways to open yourself to their messages?
Well, we talked about quite a few of the other ways. So really, it's just not dismissing things that you think are a coincidence. You know, from whether it be musical or flowers or odd behavior of things around you, or seeing a look-alike, or thinking that you feel your pet. Don't dismiss those, because your pet is really, really trying hard to let you know that they are still very much there.
I have another one from Rebecca. She said that last week she smelled lilacs several times. And I asked her in the comments if that had any specific like meaning to her. Mm-hmm. And she said that she had actually trimmed the lilac bush at her deceased grandparents' house last spring.
Perfect. Well, you have pinpointed who it was. Yes. So they what they're doing by sending you that scent is telling you that they appreciated what you were doing there, and that they're still around you very much, and that they love you, and they will come back from time to time. That's pretty sweet.
Thank you. I'm sure Rebecca will appreciate that. And then we have another one here from Kelly. She's thanking you for doing this program for us. She recently lost her cat of 16 and a half years, and she's glad that she came across this event. And she's also very sorry for your recent loss. So not really a question, but a comment for
Well,
you.
thank you. I appreciate that. And you know, I don't make a living at this. I do this because I want to help other pet parents who have lost their beloved pets. Um, and that's why actually I've written the books. These are the two books, Pets 1 and 2, that I've written to teach you how to recognize signs, so that you don't have to go to a medium, because you know it's expensive sometimes to go to a medium. Um, I consider myself a medium rare, so I'm kind of cheap. but um, but it really is expensive to go to a medium. You know, sometimes they charge more than $150 for a session. And um, when I do readings, I'll give you one or two things from a pet. And that's really all you need, as long as you can confirm them. And folks also need to know that if you get readings from mediums, sometimes it takes a while to figure out the sign. It usually usually you can figure them out, but in one case I will share with you, this is going to be in Pets in the Afterlife 3, that um, a gentleman's, I think his name was Dave. Dave's Labrador Retriever, his black lab, had passed away, and Dave wanted to know, you know, a couple of different things. And one of the things that his black lab kept sharing with me, I think his black lab's name was Blake, was the number 512. And I told him, I said, 512 is important. I don't know if it's a time, if it's a date, or if it has any other significance. And Dave wrote me back and he said, I understand all of the other things that you gave me, but I don't know what 512 was. And I said, well, think about it, because it may come about. So he did. And I heard back from him 8 months later. And by the way, I have given people messages, and they said, I don't understand it. And please don't say mean things if you don't understand the message. Somebody wrote one on an Amazon review that they got messages from me and they didn't understand them at the time, and then they wrote really mean things. And you know, I do this for free. So just be nice. Long story short, 8 months later, Dave wrote me back and he said, Rob, I have to tell you, I figured out what 512 is. He said, I'm a doctor, and I was seeing a patient in my office for a collapsed lung. And he said, when I went to put in the medical code, it's 512. He said, one of the things that took the life of my dog was a collapsed lung, 512. And he said, it took me 8 months to realize that my dog was sending me that sign. Pretty amazing.
Francis here says that you mentioned the book, The Pets in the Afterlife 3.
Mm-hmm.
Is that book out yet? And if so, where can it be purchased?
No, it's not out yet. I'm actually in the final round of edits. It's Pets in the Afterlife 3 Spirit Dogs, and it also has it will have a chapter by a friend of mine, Dr. Bill Charmack, about how to cope with grief. That's coming out in January, and they're all on Amazon, and they're all under $10. And I set the price because I'm self-published. I want to make them affordable. I don't believe in. I wouldn't even buy a book over $10. So I want everybody to be able to afford them and get comfort from them, and then hold on to them and share them with friends and neighbors who may have lost a pet, because it really does help.
Thank you for that. We have another question coming in here. It says that the person, Kaylee, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, came home yesterday and found a wet spot. She recently wiped up on the floor where her dog used to lay. No one was home. Is that a form of communication?
It very well could be. You know, the first thing I do is I try to debunk things. So, you know, make sure you don't have a drip from your roof or a leaky refrigerator. And then if you can't if you can't figure it out, and it just happens to be the same spot of where your dog used to lay, then yes, it probably is. And also check the date. Take note of the date, because dates are very important when it comes to signs from pets.
Kaylee's also asking, is having a pet's ashes in the home helpful for communication?
That's a great question. I actually have chapters on ashes. So ashes are really the remnants of the physical. They do have some residual energy of the pet. Um, it's more for us. Um, we have all the ashes of our pets, and when we pass, we're going to be cremated, and we're going to have their ashes mixed with ours, and then we're just going to be scattered all together because we want to be with them. So it is residual energy, and residual energy is basically emotional energy that is left over from the life of someone, and that can actually act as a draw. So it can bring the pet more to that particular room where you have the ashes, but it's not necessary. So, um,
All right. And then I actually have a question for you.
okay.
You said that you figured out that you were a medium, or tried to ignore it since you said, I think 13.
Hmm.
What was your first sign? How did you figure this out?
I got the life scared out of me, literally, by my grandfather. I was 13. I was home with the family dog, and my grandfather had passed in December of 1976, I think. And in July, it was in the summertime, I was sitting at the kitchen table with the dog, and everybody was out, and suddenly I saw my grandfather materialize in full color 2 rooms away from me. And I was totally frightened. So I grabbed the dog and I ran outside, and I didn't know I didn't understand it. I had no idea what was happening. When my mom and dad came home, I told them, because I had a really great relationship with my parents. I would tell them everything. And my dad, he was just shaking his head, and my mother said, "I'm not surprised." And turns out she had the ability to, but she was afraid to use it. She was really afraid because she had after her mom died, her mom called her name loudly in one of her ears, and my mother freaked out. So my mother blocked all the signs from spirit. But what was funny is that after I reawakened my abilities, like 15 years ago, and I started talking to earthbound ghosts and spirits who crossed over, I would talk to my mother on the phone every day, and she would ask, the first thing she would ask me is, "What dead people have you talked to today?" I'm like, "You can talk to them." She's like, "No, I'm not going to do that. You can do it."
Fun story.
Yeah, that's my mother. Um, oh, that reminds me. Do I have another couple minutes? I have another story.
Yeah, you have a couple minutes.
Okay, sure.
We don't have any more questions coming in right now.
Okay, thank you. So I want to share a story with you about when we pass. Um, our pets will all be waiting for us, and I also want to touch on reincarnation too, because I get that question a lot. First, I'll talk about reincarnation, and then I'll talk about when we pass. So people ask me if they adopt a new dog or cat, will their dog or cat in spirit be reincarnated in their new dog or cat? The answer is no. It does not work that way. I heard some mediums say that does, and I just don't think that's fair to say that, because it puts high expectations. They may say that to comfort you, but it's not true. And the reason is that everybody that passes in this life waits on the other side until everyone they know has also passed. And then we all come back at the same time. So here's an interesting thing that I also didn't mention. There's just so much more to talk about that it's hard to do it in 1 hour. But if first of all, your dog or cat in spirit will lead you to the next dog or cat or horse or bird that you're supposed to adopt. It may be suddenly a Facebook page that shows up, and you fall in love with the dog or cat, and you decide to adopt them. Or there's other stories, so many stories I have about that. But they will lead you to the right pet that they want you to adopt. And sometimes they'll say they don't want you to adopt another dog. In some cases, I've had there was one particular male dog that said to me, "I only want my parents to adopt a female dog because there will never be another like me." Like, okay. Another dog led this woman into a shelter when she wasn't ready to adopt. She had a dog named Bullet who passed away, and she went into the shelter, and she walked down through the entire shelter, and she came to the last cage, and she bent down, and she knew that she had to adopt that dog. The dog's name was Trigger. Trigger and Bullet are the two horses that Roy Rogers and Dale Evans had. So your dog or cat will lead you to the next dog or cat. Also, in spirit, your dog or cat will train your new dog or cat to have one or more habits that they had when they were alive. What do I mean by that? If your current cat likes to go to a certain place in the house and passes away, and you adopt a new cat, you may find that your new cat goes to that same place, oddly enough. And it's not because of the scent, because usually pets want to pick their own place. They're being led by that cat in spirit to do that. Dogs do, dogs will train other dogs all the time. And one of my very first pet readings outside of Buzz, who has come to me hundreds of times, was a Chihuahua that came to me named Chico, and he pointed out the woman that he was connected to in an audience of 40 people, and I stopped her, and I asked her if she knew a dog named Chico, a little Chihuahua, a tan Chihuahua, and she was blown away, and she said, "How do you know that?" And I said, "Well, Chico's telling me that he is training your dark colored dog, your black dog, how to be a better dog." And he said, "How did you know I had a black dog?" And I said, "Because Chico told me." And she was totally blown away. So they train them to have a habit, and it doesn't have to be a good habit, so just be warned. Yeah. And I think the last, another story I'll tell you is that when my mother passed, my mother had a stroke in 2013, and she was in the hospital, and she was in a coma. And she had stayed in that coma for like 5 days. The doctor had told me and my husband, take your time. She was 450 miles away. So they said, just come up here when you can. We know you have 3 dogs. You have to arrange for that. So we came up there, and we went in the hospital room. And as I walked in, I sensed my dad come in. My dad had passed 5 years before. So my dad came in, and in his arms was my mother's favorite dog, her poodle named Gigi, who passed in 1993. And I went to my mom and I said, "Mom, it's okay. You can cross now." I said, "Dad's here, and he has Gigi." And I always used to say, my mother always used to say that her favorite child was Gigi, and she would say that in front of me and my 2 brothers all the time. So she wasn't going to cross because my dad was there. She was going to cross because Gigi was there. And she passed 5 hours later. So there's proof that they're right there waiting for us. Are there any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
All right.
One caution I want to share with everybody too is that one message I got from a dog named Clancy for all pet parents, and this is in Pets in the Afterlife too, is that please be aware of what plants around your house are toxic. Because his mom wrote me and told me that she couldn't understand why this puppy, this beautiful Cocker Spaniel puppy, passed away. No reasons, no medical reasons that she would know. And it all happened in one night when she was out. And Clancy showed me that he was eating plants. And I wrote her back and I said, "Does this make sense to you?" I sent her a list of ASPCA poisonous plants. And she was able to pick out quite a number of plants, and she said that was one of his favorite things to do. And she had no idea. And that took his life one night. So that's a warning to all pet parents to know that, what plants are poisonous to your pets. So I don't want to end on a down note. I want to end on an up note. I just want to tell you that birthdays, anniversaries, and holidays are the times that you should be aware to look for messages from your pets. they're always around. You know, for me to get messages from Dolly, who just passed 2 days ago, is incredible. And another medium who's a friend of mine on the Inspired Ghost Tracking team, he wrote me and um, he told me who Dolly was with on the other side. And what's interesting, Amber, is that the morning of the day Dolly passed, I was laying on the kitchen floor with her all night, and she kept staring at one corner of the room where her door was. And I was trying to get her to go back to sleep, and I wasn't looking over there. And I finally said, okay. She couldn't get up, but her head was stock still at the doorway. And I finally looked over there, and I saw my mom and dad, and excuse me, and our friend Ed in spirit, and our 3 dogs. And when Troy wrote me the next day, he said, that's who she's with. He wrote me, he didn't even know that I had that experience. And he said, she's with a mother figure and 2 men and several dogs, 3 dogs. And those are who I saw come for her. So just pay attention, and know that they are they're very much around, and that love never dies. Just be aware of it. So for everybody who wants to know how to get a hold of my books, just go to Amazon.com and type in Gutro, Gutro. My last name is kind of weird, so there's not many of us. Or you can go to my website, petspirits.com, and then you can find links to Amazon and all that stuff. But I'm very thankful to the library for allowing me to share this time with all of these grieving pet parents, and I hope that some of you have picked up on some of the messages that I've been talking about today, and found a way to some peace. So thank you all.
Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your heart with us. I'm sure it helped a lot of people today.
Do I have audio?
Yes.
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to say thank you so much for doing this for us. And thank you for my husband and I and Patty for helping us 2 weeks ago. I greatly appreciate it. And I want to tell our listeners out there today that Rob will be joining us October 31st for another a paranormal case book of Maryland. So hopefully you can all join us then as well. Thank you.
We're gonna be talking about the case files of Inspired Ghost Tracking, and I will be talking about the case of the burned ghost.
Okay, I'm ready. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.